Yeah, because Tanzania is quite close to equator there in eastern Africa. It's a nice big country and with a lot of rainforests, a lot of national parks, a lot of steppe grass grassy areas, but also quite dry areas. Um, Um, and the first place we'll go to is actually just the place I came when I arrived because I was picked up by my friend Per Holman, and he lives just outside of the city of Arusha in northern Tanzania, at a place called Kili Golf, which is actually a quite large golf course, and of course there are a lot of birds because we're down in Africa, and after traveling all the way from the Faroes, just sitting on his porch, relaxing was really quite nice. And especially since he had been hanging out, feeders and has been doing that for a long time. So the garden was basically just alive with birds and even some really quite good ones, like these really, really colorful red-throated twin spots, the female on the left and the really, really colorful male on the left. And here you see the male as well. Just such a splendid bird. And now you probably understand why my wife thinks that birding in Africa is actually quite nice compared to watching garden warblers or willow warblers or chiffchaffs on the Faroes because the birds are really, really colorful. And there are also a lot of different uh, sunbirds that are also really, really colorful. This is the scarlet-chested sunbird, the male with this blue on the head and a really deep scarlet chest, which is also quite a common sunbird in the villages and in the cities in northern Tanzania. An amazingly beautiful bird. And just around the golf course, you have some really colorful kingfishers. This is the African pygmy kingfisher, which is also really a beautiful blue bird, quite similar to an even more common one called the Malachite kingfisher, but this one is a little darker bluish and has a darker bill. And this one is actually not um, as connected with wetlands as most of the other kingfishers in Tanzania. A really beautiful one. And in his garden, we also had the beautiful red-chested cuckoo um, just coming in there, and one of the other really colorful finches around there, the purple grenadier, um, which is also just a splash of colors. Um, Actually, just in the first 2 days, we were just relaxing. In his house, we saw more than 70 species just around the golf course and his garden. Even the giant kingfisher was present along a few streams there. A really, really huge kingfisher, almost like the kookaburra of Australia. Really a beautiful bird as well. And one of the more spectacular birds as well is the Hadara ibis or ibis that you also find in many inhabited areas, walking on the fields and so on, and they have a beautiful glossy green forewing, really also a nice bird, um, and they're really quite quite common compared to the green ibis that is only found in rainforests. And another splash of color is the really quite common violet-backed starling that you also find in many parks in open woodland in Tanzania. And if you're lucky, you might also find a few owl species. This is the pearl spotted owlet, And here is the spotted eagle owl, which is also one of the large owls of Tanzania. This is also just close to the place where we spent the first few days. So just a whole lot of species around Arusha. The first place we went to look for some target species is a place called Engikaret, which is a Maasai area north of Russia. It's quite a special area because you have some quite huge plains. Even though they're not really huge, you have a bird there that only breeds there in the whole world, and it's quite fascinating actually to look out over this area, knowing, well, this is the size of, well, quite a few soccer fields, but still quite limited. And still, you have one bird that only breeds here in the whole world, and it's called Beasley's lark. According to the African Bird Club, there might be as few as 60 individuals left in the world, and yeah, it's only found in these in this particular place. There might be a few adjacent areas where it can be seen, but it's a really, really limited distribution and might be one of the rarest birds in all of Africa. And it's not even easy to find. If you only have 60 birds, it's really hard to find. But the good thing is that the local Maasai tribe there, they know how to help the birders and also to make money at the same time. So when my friend Pierre is going there, he calls someone in the village, and they get up early and they walk around the area in order to find the larks. And as you can see in the background, you also have zebras there, and you have the Maasai grazing their cattle there. And yeah, so you have some Maasai's going out looking for the birds, so you don't have to spend a day or even days just looking for it. And we were really lucky when we came and obtained amazing views of this really quite fascinating lark, I would say, with the really long bill and really upright posture. And you can see it has a really, really small primary projection, so it really doesn't fly a lot at all. You can normally tell if a bird is a long distance migrant by the length of the primary projection. This one is ultra local and ultra rare. The area in Gikaret is really quite nice for many other birds as well, like chestnut chestnut-bellied sandgrouse is quite common in the area, and we also saw plenty of wintering lesser kestrels, and we even found really good rarity as we found a quail plover. Close to the Engikaret, there's a small there are some woodland which also has some really good birds like this endemic red-throated tit, which can also be quite difficult to find in other places. And the black-faced sand grouse is also really quite common in the area. And this quite funky looking white-bellied go-away bird is also quite common in the area, and it's not a really rare bird in northern Tanzania at all, and you can even find it in gardens in cities as well. But a really nice looking one. But we did find a really good or fairly good rarity at least. Not the best picture I've ever taken, but it's a really nice bird. It's the white-throated robin or Irania guturalis, which is like a dream bird for everybody in Western Europe to find. It breeds in Turkey, for instance, and is quite or is a mega rarity. I think there are a few records in the UK, maybe just one or two, but that's a really, really nice bird. I'd like to find one in the Faroes, but it's quite unlikely. Um, after Engikaret, we went to a place called Lingiyave, where we spent some time in a gorge there. And apropos, we saw a really gorgeous bird, and I really fell in love with this one. It's a malachite sunbird. It's just amazingly beautiful green, like a diamond, and the plumage is really fresh. So I'll show you a few pictures, because yeah, it just looked so nice. And depending on how the light hits the bird, it changes color, and especially the belly is actually quite bluish. That's just one of those birds where, well, even my wife thinks that that's a really, really beautiful one. Here you can also see how the color changes depending on how it's hit by the light. Yeah, so there we found this malachite kingfisher, no, sunbird. We found the red and yellow barbet, which is also quite a beautiful and quite funny social barbet. Um, striking with the black and white dots and everything. We also saw white-fronted bee eater and long-billed pipits and a whole lot of different species there. So quite a good day. The following day, we went to Tarangire National Park, which is quite a large national park with both some dry steppe and some woodlands and a big stream running through and some lakes. And of course, it also has large game in the area or in the national park. Definitely worth a visit if you're going there. And for me, one of the greatest experiences there was to see these lap-faced vultures. They've been declining a lot recently. They used to be probably quite regular up in all the way north to Israel, but now they've declined a lot. But it's really quite a feisty looking um, vulture, and a very, very big one, very impressive. And of course, it belongs in an African national park. Yeah, so that was one of the really good birds there. A lot of the area is quite dry steppe, and here you have a double-banded cursor, and we saw quite a lot of these birds as well. Obviously, they're thriving in the area, and there is an area called the Little Serengeti in Tarangire, because it might be a little bit similar to Serengeti, but it's a famous place for bustards, and that's a place where you can see both Corey's bustard, black-bellied bustard, and this white-bellied bustard, which is really quite a nice bird loving the grassland. Looks quite, yeah, it is quite beautiful. I must admit, strange and nice bustard. You also have a more common bustard called the buff-crested bustard, um, which also likes to hide, especially during the heat of the day. They often stay under the bushes, and thus they're quite easy to locate in the general area. Um, and you have some other, like the spotted thickney, that also likes the more dry areas with grass and open areas. And one of my favorites as well, the Namakwa doe, a really small, beautiful doe that seems to be expanding north and is now regularly seen all the way up to Turkey. a really small, beautiful one. This is a male on the picture here, and one of the smallest falcons in the world, the pygmy falcon. It's not. It's actually quite scarce, but we did see maybe two different birds there. It's a small and beautiful falcon, and a bird almost similar to the European robin. It's called the silver bird, and that was actually a lifer for me. I had never seen that one before, so I was happy to see this one in Tarangire. And of course, there's no way not talking about the gray crowned crane. It's just a magnificent bird, really. And here you see the probably male and female walking around in some running water there. It's just beautiful bird. There's also large game there, and joined by the here it's a giraffe, and on the giraffe you see the yellow-billed oxpecker. They're almost solely found on large animals, and this one here, the yellow-billed is by far the most uncommon compared to the red-billed in northern Tanzania. And here it has found some good spots where it eats parasites off of the giraffe. And here it almost looks like it's shouting into the ear of the giraffe, but I think it's a good kind of symbiosis between the two species, because the giraffe gets to be clean and the oxpecker gets a full belly. Yeah. And of course, we also did see large game. We saw lions there. We saw a lot of ungulates, and but this one was the one stealing my heart. There's nothing like a baby elephant. It's just so nice and beautiful. And here it's splashing in the water, and we used quite some time just observing it from the car. And it was having a really good time. So that was nice. One of the really striking birds, or striking common birds, is the lilac-breasted roller here, nesting in a hollow tree. Yeah, also just a nice one. And we also saw European rollers in Tarangire National Park. And we did get to see a few rare birds as well. The most uncommon is this dwarf bittern. It's really, really hard to see because it stays hidden. And, we're just lucky that exactly when we stopped and checked, it was out in the open. And after a few moments, it flew into dense cover and disappeared, never to be seen again. So that's one of those that are quite tricky to get on your African list, unless you know exactly where it's breeding. Some of the birds in Africa look quite funky. This is a male knob-billed duck, and well, it does really have quite a knob on the bill. So a great name for a great bird that is not really common, but you do see them every now and then. And the kingfishers, they're always just amazing. This is a woodland kingfisher, actually one of my favorites, along with the quite similar mangrove kingfisher. Beautiful blue, light blue colors. And of course, we did see several flocks of the largest bird in the world, the ostrich. And here you have mostly males and a female out to the left. And they're quite common in Tarangire, and there you can even see the largest bird that can fly, the Cory bustard. So a nice place. We did see raptors besides the lap-faced vultures. This is a brown-chested snake eagle, also a nice bird there. The next place we went to visit is called the Endoro Trail on the next day. The Ngoro National Park is or conservation area is quite a famous place where you have like a huge crater, and down in the crater you have elephants, lions, and even rhinos, and just a lot of animals living. And the birding is also really nice, but it's quite expensive to spend time there. But here on the edges of the crater, you can take some trails where the forest is really quite nice. Here you have a view of the trail on the slopes upwards to the Ngoro crater, and it's a really nice place for birding, even though you need to have a ranger just in case a hyena or a leopard is trying to eat you. He's there to protect you. But a really nice and lush area. When I was there now in March, it it was kind of like the end of the breeding season, so it's just when the birds are starting to relax quite a bit. Many of them are actively molting, so they're not so active. And if I should visit Tanzania again, I would just for birding. I would probably go from November to January, or because that's when the breeding season, like the equivalent of our spring, is going on, and most of the birds will probably have look a little more fresh in the plumage, and you'll notice that later on. Here you have that thrush, where you can see it's starting to look a little bit funky. This is probably first winter individual. And here you have a bird that is quite rare to observe, or difficult. It's a Hildebrands francolin, just running along the track, and we were quite lucky to see this one. And you have the gray-headed nigrita, which is a really small and beautiful passerine that is, that only lives in the dense forest. And the mustached thinkerbird is also a forest dweller that is not seen pretty much outside of dense and good quality forest. And a really, really quite good one, which is the purple-throated cuckoo shrike. Most often you just see like a shadow up in the canopy, but we were lucky to see one bird quite well that came down on the from the canopy just to check us out for a bit. So I was really thrilled, and it was the first time I saw and photographed this species. So quite nice. After walking the trail, we went to a small lake just to see what was going on. And one of the small birds we saw there was the quail finch, which is also quite rare to see. And we actually found a new bird that also was new to Per, my Norwegian friend, because we flushed a corncrake, which is not so easily seen. It's not easily seen anywhere because it's quite a shy bird, but we got it in Tanzania, which was really nice. So quail finch and corncrake, and just a stunning southern red bishop. Just another example of the extravagant colors of the birds of Africa. The day after, we went to a place called the Maasai Steppes, which has more like open woodland species. And there we got the eastern violet-backed sunbird, which can be hard to find anywhere else. And the golden-breasted starling, a really beautiful starling. Um, Unfortunately, didn't get really good or prolonged use. It just flew by, but still a really nice starling to see. And we had the black-capped weaver, also quite a charming bird out there. And pink-breasted lark, and it was actually a lifer for me as well in the Maasai steppes. This one. This is a more common bird, the green-winged petilia, but still, it's just a splash of color. This nice small finch. The biggest surprise, though, was that we were driving in these Maasai steppes, and it was really quite a dry area. And all of a sudden, we reached a small pond, and it was just loaded with these birds. These with the really long tail are called straw-tailed white-ass. Some small, passerines with really long tails, and we also saw the long-tailed paradise white-eye, which is it's just amazing with these tails. They really have some energy to build some extra features compared to the birds on the Faroes. Just splendid birds, really, and just imagine. Well, it's quite hard for them to fly with such a big tail, but I'm sure it does impress the females, and just really nice birds. And we even saw a few steel blue white-ass as well, and they also have these really extravagant long tails. So that was quite a good experience. The next place we went is called Nyumba ya Mungu, House of God, which is a big dam that is built by support from Norway to make electricity. And water is quite scarce in many parts of Tanzania. Really big lakes. And this dam, Nyumba ya Mungu, does attract a lot of birds, like the great white pelican and some long-tailed cormorants in the background, and Egyptian goose as well. And one of my targets was to see the water thickening, and we managed to see more than 10 of those along the shore of the dam. Quite an interesting looking shorebird. You can see the big eye, which means that it's rather nocturnal in its way of living, but they stay along the shore during the day as well, and are not too hard to find unless they lay down and just stay really still. The real target, though, was to see the African skimmer, which is quite a hard bird to connect with in many places in Africa. The skimmers are like large terns. They have a really special way of feeding because the lower mandible they put into the water, and they just fly really low, skimming the water. And when they hit a fish, they close the bill. So that's why they look quite interesting, I must say, with this really long lower mandible. And we saw several hundred of those along the Nyumba ya Mungu. So I was quite happy with that. We also had a few pink-backed pelicans along with the great white pelicans, which was also nice. And just a little north of the dam, we stopped to find one of the really hard birds. It's called the Pringle's puffback. It's not easy to see, and it's not a bird that you can rely on finding there, but we actually had the luck to find one Pringle's puffback just in the area close to the dam. It's also an area known for its Somali buntings, which are, well, not common, but regular in the area. also a beautiful bunting, really. And brown-crowned sacra is easily found in the more wooded areas around the dam. And in the really wet areas, we came across several flocks of Abdims storks, which are small, like black storks with these black blue faces, and they're intra-African migrants. Yeah, and now we continue to the more mountainous and maybe a little bit more special areas of birding. We and we start in the South Pare Mountains. Those are mountain range to the east of Arusha, where the Pare tribe lives. It's some beautiful mountains, really, and there's a lot of quite nice forest there, but the logging is really quite heavy there. Our only target there, the only endemic bird right there is the South Pare white eye, and we did struggle quite a lot, but eventually we found a few, and yeah, it was really nice to see, and yet it was kind of tragic because when we were watching this endemic bird that only lives here, we could also hear the noise of the chainsaw just rolling in the background. So yeah, that's a little bit sad. But we were also rewarded with the eastern brown snake pigeon. Here you see the female, also a female, and here the male, which is also quite a hard bird. Then we went to Same, and that's more open woodland area, and we have the gray-headed bush shrike, which is quite nice, and gray-headed silverbill. Um, yeah, and this was actually, I think, the first time Pierre was doing these tours for years and years that he actually saw it in that area. So that was quite a bonus bird. But our main target there was the black-bellied sunbird, and here you can see it. It's kind of molting its feathers, so it's not looking really shiny, but it's still a really, really rare bird, the black-bellied sunbird. We also had the black cuckoo shrike in the area, and this quite catchy rosy-patched bush shrike. It's almost like a Siberian ruby throat, but when you look at the throat only, quite nice actually. Yeah, and we also got the Savo sunbird in that area. And now we go to one of my dream places. It's the Magamba Nature Forest Reserve, or Magamba Nature Forest Reserve Office. That's yeah, okay, yeah. It's called Magamba, and it's really, really nice forest. And there are some protected parts that are pretty much untouched, and it's just a little piece of paradise waiting for you there. There are some hotels where you can live quite far out of the forest, but that means that you use at least 1 hour in the morning just getting there. But so Pierre had come up with this great plan to actually camp in this old sawmill, so we can stay in the middle of the forest, just being ready as soon as dawn breaks. And we actually lived in tents under these roofs here because it can really rain a lot there. So that was quite amazing. But just look at the forest; it's just beautiful and splendid, really, really nice. Unfortunately, before you reach the protected areas, you see both a lot of logging, but also a lot of areas where they have planted, either banana palms or banana trees or different kinds of pine trees that grow really fast that they use as timber or to burn or whatever. So So there's not so much remaining there, unfortunately, outside of the protected areas. You also have the black and white colobus monkey, which is a really, really beautiful monkey species there. And you have the red-capped forest warbler, which is quite a, yeah, you also need really good forest to see this one. And the yellow-throated woodland warbler, which is a nice Philoscopus, and it's always a joy just to see other Philoscopuses, I'd rather than just chiffchaffs and willow warblers, even though they're really nice as well. But to see some of the African or Asian Philoscopuses is really nice. And here we got quite a rare bird, the orange-breasted bush shrike, which is also a real beauty. We got some both mottled. This is mottled spinetail, and we also saw boom spinetail, which is some small swifts or spinetails that are also living in the forest only, and one of the stars, the bar-tailed trogon. This is the male, really an explosion of color as well, but remarkably camouflaged. If it wants to stay hidden, it really can. But just really, really nice one. And here you can see the bars on the tail, so bar-tailed trogon. During the night, while camping, we heard African wood owls, and after hearing it one night, I asked our Tanzanian guide if we could go and have a look at it. And as you can see here, we really got some nice, good views of it, because it was basically just sitting there looking at us. Quite a nice and large wood owl. The starbird, or one of the starbirds of Magamba, is the Uzambara akalat, because it's just shy, rare, and hard to see. We managed to see two different birds, and I actually managed to get photos, which is quite nice. So this is the Uzambara akalat, and here you can see it just turning like a small thrush nightingale or something, just disappearing into the forest. But I'm really happy with these two pictures. The Usambara, the endemic Usambara sunbird is also there and fairly easy to connect with. The endemic Usambara thrush. We even had coming to our campsite there in the sawmill, so that was quite nice. Also a beautiful thrush running around there, and there we had the Usambara bulbul or green bull, which is also a really hard bird to photograph. And actually, Perry, he had never obtained a photo of this one, so it was quite a good trip for the both of us, because we got, and this is an endemic as well. A few more common forest species is like this white-starred robin eating a frog after some torrential rains, and then feeding the frog to its offspring. And it was quite a nice series. And this is what it looks like when it's dry. Quite a beautiful bird as well. And I got really lucky with this crowned eagle that was just passing by while it was actually, taking a small break. Quite a raptor. Another really uncommon forest bird here. This is the Philiborn's bulbul, completely black one. That is hard to observe, but after some really heavy rain, we just had one hopping around the campsite. And then for the last part is the Amani forest, which is further to the east. And there we got really lucky seeing this eastern necator, which is also a really hard bird to see. African paradise flycatcher, um, uh, another beautiful forest bird, and the chestnut fronted helmet shrike. You know, it's just like it has this mascara or something around the eye. It's just really, really charming. And that one we saw in Amani. And the Turacos are just amazing forest living big birds that jump from branch to branch. Really, really colorful. This is Hardlop's Turaco with the beautiful crest. We did see quite a few of those. Amazing bird. And another one of the really, really hard ones is the Crestmarsh longbill, which normally you only see as a shadow disappearing, but we had one giving really good views. And then, besides species, or this might be almost as rare as the Beasley's lark, it's the long-billed forest warbler. Then there are thought to be maybe between 60 and 200 left in the world, and they're all around this area in the Amani forest. We managed to see a single individual, and you can easily see that it's post breeding time, it's molting, it's really warm, but that's also one of the really, really rare birds. Might be only 200 left in the world. Long-billed forest warbler. But quite a nice one. And really has a long bill. I also managed to photograph this spot throat, which is considered one of the hardest bird to photograph in Tanzania, maybe because it's just so shy. It creeps in the bottom of the forest and then just disappears. But it offered me 2 seconds out in the open, and I accepted the challenge. I also got lucky with this lowland tiny green bull, which is also one of those that you can't rely on either seeing or photographing, but it also gave me a few seconds, so I got to see it quite well. The orioles are also amazing there. It's the green-headed oriole. It's just another splash of color, and yet it's remarkably well camouflaged there in the forest of Amani. The this is not the best picture, but it's an Usambara Hyliota, and also quite a rare bird that we don't know too much about, and only found here in the Usambaras. And another one of those beautiful ones, the green twin spot, related to the red-throated green spot twin spot that we saw before, and this is the male, quite a nice one. And Cabane's bunting is also found at higher altitude up in the Amani forest, and we got lucky to see a few individuals of this bunting. And we had the red-tailed ant thrush as well, just a few individuals, but also one of those rather shy birds that you need to be quite lucky to see. And the last thing I did was to go out during the night with some two Africans, the Mvera brothers in Amani, and they offered these night trips, and that was just okay. It was not specifically for birds, but it was a really great experience just to see the nightlife in the jungle. Here you have some species of tree frog that you just see during the night, and another species of tree frog, just everything being alive and full of noise. Really, really amazing. I'm sad I didn't find all the names, but I don't know where to start. But the chameleons, they were amazing. I saw 7 of the 9 endemic or species of chameleon in those ambaras. Here is the giant three-horned chameleon. It's just really, really big. And here you see the male. It's almost like it has put on lipstick and everything. It's in the middle of the night, so a little bit hard to get photos, but just amazing. And here you have a female soft-nosed chameleon just going up a branch, just amazing pattern and colors. It's just wow. I get really, really fascinated with these. Uh, and here you got the male soft-nosed chameleon seen during the day, and here you got the a species of pygmy chameleon, female with really rounded shape and not too much color, even though they do change color. And here you have the two-horned, the Whistler's two-horned chameleon, and this was also during the day, and it's almost like seeing a dinosaur passing right next to you, like a triceratops almost. Only it lacks the third horn. Uh, Really amazing animal, just going back and forward like the chameleons do, and the colors are just amazing. Not something we see on the Faroes every day. Um, and during the night, we also saw a single bush baby. And yeah, and during the day, we also saw quite a few blue monkeys up in Amani. And yeah, so if you want to go to Tanzania, there are a lot of birds waiting you. During this about 2 weeks of birding, we actually recorded 475 different bird species, which is quite impressive. It's more than I've ever seen, or more than have ever been recorded on the Faroe Islands ever. And it just shows that the biodiversity is really, really big down there. And yeah, in a little more than 2 weeks, you can maybe see as many birds as you have seen in Britain. And there are just so many other things to see as well. So, well, I hope you enjoyed my small talk on Tanzania. And yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I can assure you we have. Thank you very much, Silas. That was wonderful again. And I'm sure that there will be a number of questions for you.
yeah,
You still have the energy and inclination to do that for us. We'd be most
yeah,
grateful.
sure. I'll
Thank
be
you very much.
delighted.
Thank you. I'll just check, first of all, with Gary, see if there are any in the chat box. Um,
Oh,
um,
oh, absolutely fantastic photos and talk. That's just come through.
oh, lovely. Excellent. Here, here.
Oh,
Any
thanks.
questions for Gary?
Yeah,
Please.
Silas, thank you very much. Fantastic talk as usual, and amazing photography. Some stunning sort of species there, and obviously a lot that we've not heard of. So thanks for taking us to a part of the world that we don't hear a lot of. You were going on about with the lappet faced vultures, presumably
Yeah.
like all the other vultures. Have they declined over the years due to, is it use of diclofenac in the food
Yes,
chain? Yeah.
they have declined, yeah,
Yeah.
and quite severely in some places, yeah.
Is it still used a lot though? Is the
Uh,
vulture population, is it still going down or is it plateaued?
um, uh, as far as I've heard, it's they're kind of recovering again
Mm.
because they have been quite active in taking care and teaching people not to put out poisoned carcasses and so on, and that the vultures are actually a part of the ecosystem. So there are some movements going at least in a positive direction. Um, yeah, but you know, being out there and seeing the numbers, I don't think it's quite nice. But compared to numbers you can see in Mongolia, for instance, it's still at a much lower density
Mhm.
than in Africa. Yeah.
Okay, so Ruben's asking, are there any bird calls that stood out to you in Tanzania?
Any bird calls? There are a lot of them that stood out. Well, which one stood out the most? Well, actually, it was the olive ibis that had like a harrowing screen over the Amani forest during the night. You can try to look it up, olive ibis, and actually, yeah, I never photographed it, so that's one of them. But you know, there are just so many calls, and you know, getting to know them all is really quite difficult. And well, one of the few birds I was able to take by the call was actually a thrush nightingale that was singing down there, because they tend to sing. It was actually at the golf course, and they tend to sing at their wintering areas as well, where they set up territories. So that was one of those that I could take by the call.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's just a haven of different sounds.
Okay, so Roberta's saying, wow, what an amazing variety of colours and variety of species. That was a huge number seen in just 2 weeks. Thank you very much. And Lauren is saying, thank you for a great talk, and has a question. Are there any species you've seen in both Tanzania and the Faroe Islands?
Yeah, there are. Willow warbler would be one of them. Barred warbler, garden warbler, yellow wagtail, yeah, barn swallow, house martin, common swift. Well, there's actually quite a large list, and that's because most of our migrants, they go to Africa, go to well, not all of them go to east. Some of them go to West Africa as well, but there's a huge overlap between the well, a lot of the European breeding birds that winter in Africa can also be seen in Tanzania. I should put it that way. Also, reed bunting, now reed warbler, and great reed warbler is quite common down there as well. So you could come up with probably several hundred birds that have been recorded, at least both in the UK and in Tanzania as well.
Cool. You actually mentioned, I think I heard you mention corncrake. Do they ever get to the Faroes, or have they ever got there?
Well, I have two records of corncrake on the Faroes, one in 2017 and one this autumn, where I finally managed to photograph my first corncrake ever. And it was just 7 minutes from home. And yeah, it was just mind-blowing, because I just found a Maltese warbler, which is like a really, really good bird. I think there are less than 20 records in the UK. And then I walked 100 meters away from the Maltese, and then I flushed a corncrake. And after a while, I just waited it out, and it came out, walked right past me. It was amazing. Actually, the history of corncrake is quite interesting, because until Second World War, you used to grow barley on the Faroes. And they actually used to breed in the barley fields on the Faroes. But when they stopped having barley just before Second World War, they disappeared as breeding birds. And I think it also has to do with the general decline in Europe as a whole, and also in northwestern Europe, and not the least in the Hebrides and so on. But they used to breed on the Faroes.
Okay, thank you.
Silas, I think you referred at one point to Scandinavian backing for conservation projects in Tanzania, and I wondered if you'd like to elaborate on that or any other international initiatives that help with bird conservation in Tanzania.
Well, yeah, I mentioned actually that the thing I mentioned was that this large dam, it was produced or it was sponsored by the Norwegian government in order to produce electricity. The challenges, you could say, for Jon Fjeldså, for instance, a Danish professor, has been doing a lot of work in the jungles and in the mountains of Tanzania, and there are many birds doing stuff there. What is really quite interesting and challenging in Tanzania is that you can make a huge national park and so on, but the problem is that you don't have enough wild livestock to actually keep keep everything from just turning into woodland or forest. And therefore, it's a problem just buying huge swaths of land and just leave it on its own, because it then turns into something where the large game can actually not live because there's not enough to keep it down. And therefore, it's quite interesting that actually the richest places you find are just on the outskirts of the protected areas, where you have a few herders coming every now and then, grazing a little bit, maybe making a small fire, breaking off some branches and so on, and keeping the area fairly open. And that's where you get the real magic with all of the species present. So it's quite interesting that it's not just about leaving it alone, but it needs a small bit of grazing, and then it's perfect.
Well, thank you for mentioning that. It's a really relevant topic here in the UK with this momentum for rewilding, but it doesn't necessarily always chime properly and ecologically with what's needed to maintain biodiversity. And you've just given us a good example of that from the tropics. Thank you.
And I'm not saying everything is the same in the UK or even on the Faroe Islands. I think it would be beneficial to have some areas without sheep grazing and so on. But it's interesting that in Tanzania, that's where you get the peak of biodiversity.
Thank you. I
Thank
know
you.
we've had at least one more question in the chat. Gary?
Barbara says, wonderful talk, inspiring. Can you tell us something about the logistics of travel around Tanzania?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. I have been traveling 1,200 kilometers from Sumbawanga to Dar es Salaam by bus. And it was challenging, a lot of unpaved roads and gravel roads and so on, and not the best quality buses and so on. So I wouldn't recommend that unless you really either need to be on a budget or need to test your own limits. What we did this last time is that Per is doing these trips and takes a few people or takes customers and so on, and there are a lot of companies doing that, and they arrange all the transport because you just see so many birds that when you get there, you need to stop all the time because of all the species you see, right? But in general, getting there is quite well. After living in Mongolia, I'm kind of used to it, but some would think it's fairly hard to get around and to actually reach some of these forests and so on, because it's a bumpy ride. And it's never going to be anything else than that, at least in the close future.
Thank you, Silas. Thank you for the warning. Any other questions? Yeah. No? Well, if not, my pleasure to thank you, Silas, very much indeed on behalf of all of the group. Fab talk. You set the tone with those first few shots, the stunning red-throated twin spots and the African pygmy kingfishers. Immediately an assault on the visual senses, which continued all the way through. But I love the way you kept popping in some little brown jobs as well that were just as interesting for other reasons that you properly explained. So thank you for that. But, rapidly we gathered what a remarkably diverse country it is for birds. And I don't know how many species you showed us tonight, but goodness, it was a fabulous total and a really good sample of the birds that you could expect. And I imagine perhaps in other parts of Tanzania, you'd be looking at, quite a number of different species as well, the Eastern Arc Mountains, for example. So yeah, this was a great introduction though. And I mean, there were some stunning shots, as Steve alluded to. Your photography is so good and so helpful in terms of appreciating the behavior and the habitat of the birds you were talking about. Those lovely dry steppe species, the twin-banded coursers. That was just lovely, sharp shot of the bird in its habitat. And the thickneys, I love those. There was one glorious shot, I think, of a thickney on the edge of a water body, and that was just very, very memorable. But so many were. I mean, the trogons and all the colourful beauties that you showed us. Those widers with their tails, I mean, just stunningly unpredictable, and you couldn't imagine them, how they evolved, but there they are. And I think that was a great thing about this. Was a celebration of what the tropics produces in terms of diversity. Obviously not just in birds, but it was just great to focus on birds, which we can all readily appreciate and then sort of compare with what we're more used to in this country. But to have seen, what do you say, 475 species in 2 weeks, that's probably 4/5 of the British list in just 2 weeks. So many more families. Just spectacular, isn't it? And I love the end bit with the nocturnal chameleons. I mean, quite otherworldly and lovely additional aspect to what's on offer in Tanzania. This is a country that deserves to be known by as many appreciative naturalists as possible, because it must rank as, well, I said in the beginning, the third best country in Africa for the birds and so much more. And that diversity needs to be celebrated. I just hope that the people that represent the country and its conservation interests have as much in-depth knowledge as you have, and real passion as you have for the flora and fauna of the country they represent, at both the local and international stage. Africa has so many problems. You alluded to a number of them, and it's pitiful that they might threaten the sort of diversity you've showed us tonight. I hope people in the audience will seriously consider visiting Tanzania and supporting wildlife tour industry, for example, and getting to know the country and its problems better. But tonight, hopefully, has been a real taster for somebody to go out and do that, and for there to be ongoing research too. And I hope that Western money will pour into research as well as conservation per se. Thank you ever so much. You covered a hell of a lot. Really appreciate you speaking to us from the far north this evening. We had a lovely chat, folks, beforehand, when Silas was telling us about his marine conservation work, which is just as exciting as his terrestrial interest in birds. And it involved recently seeing blue whale off the southwest tip of Ireland, and a whole range of cetaceans in the northeast Atlantic. The man before you has a passion for wildlife, there's no doubt about it, and it came through tonight. Thanks ever so much, Silas. And goodbye from us all. We hope to welcome you back. I hope you'll consider it in the future.